3-4 months doing this.
Yeah.
He was nominated by the Alameda County's Mayor's Conference on June 11th of 2020. Give them both a round of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So we're still not showing our face, but Rachel's going to get to that. We were going to do, I guess, item 4, which is a recognition of dedicated service by our alternate public member, Tom Pico, for his distinguished service to Alameda LAFCO. But I guess Tom isn't here, so we're not going to do it. But maybe if you see him, you can pat him on the back or give him a hug or something. All right.
That's
So with that, while Rachel's still trying to figure it out, now we're all gone.
Huh. Oh, okay, I got it. I think, no.
Okay, so public comment, a time to which you can speak to anything that's not on today's agenda. Going over to the attendees, I see no hands raised. Our Georgine is sitting over in attendees, by the way.
Okay, I will move her to.
We need to move her, and I guess Catherine Boxer is going to need to be removed too, or moved over, because she's going to be presenting to us. Do you have any written comments under public comment?
I do not.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to move the consent item, which consists of items 6A through F. Is there a motion?
Move it.
I got a motion by Marchand.
Second.
Wieskamp. Got a second by Commissioner Wieskamp. Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak? I am looking at the attendees. I see no hands raised. Did you have any written comments on the consent calendar?
No, Chair.
All right. Do you want me to do the roll while you try to figure out this video thing, or what? How do you want to do it? You can do it.
Okay. So let's go, Commissioner Marchand, motion moved by Commissioner Marchand and second by Commissioner Wieskamp. So
Yeah, just say our last names. It'll be a lot faster.
Thorne.
Aye.
You look good today, Jerry.
Johnson.
Thank you. Best I've ever looked.
Aye.
Lendorio.
Aye.
Miley.
Nate's on mute.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Miley. Commissioner Haubert. Well, actually, sorry, excuse me. Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect that the motion passed.
Thank you. Rachel, I think for your sanity, we're just not going to look at each other today. I think we'll just.
That's fine.
I'm sorry, everyone. I don't know.
On that.
I think we're all okay with that.
Okay.
Yes, we're fine.
Okay, so we're going to move to item 7, which is the proposed annexation of the Coyote Hills annexation to the Union Sanitary District.
Thank you, Chair. So the proposal before the commission was submitted by East Bay Regional Park District seeking to annex approximately 182 acres of territory located within the city of Fremont to Union Sanitary District for public wastewater services. The purpose of the proposal is to provide wastewater services for a visitor center as part of the Coyote Hills Park Restoration Project. The affected territory consists of one parcel, and it is located within the Coyote Hills Regional Park. The City of Fremont General Plan designates the affected territory as resource conservation, public open space, and due to the prevalence of wetlands, species habitat, and public land ownership, the area has extremely limited development potential. And if the proposal is approved, this designation would remain the same. Now, Union Sanitary District agrees with the annexation and determines that it does have the capacity to support the planned development. Additionally, the affected territory lies within Union Sanitary District's sphere of influence, and the timing of the change of organization aligns with the City of Fremont's land use policies in a manner that reflects available capacities and infrastructure. Now, staff did not identify any potential boundary amendments to the proposal that merit commission consideration at this time. and no further conditions of approval have been applied for the annexation. Protest proceeding for change of organization may be viewed by Alameda LAFCO under Government Code Section 56662, given that the affected territory is uninhabited and the subject landowner has provided respective written consent to the underlying proceedings. Lastly, East Bay Regional Park District serves as the lead agency for assessing the potential impacts of the proposal under CEQA and has determined it is a project that will have less than significant impacts on the environment. East Bay Regional Park District has adopted an environmental impact report that factors in the proposed annexation, which staff independently concurs that it has made the appropriate determinations. Staff recommends the commission adopt the draft resolution approving the annexation of the Coyote Hills Regional Park parcel to Union Sanitary District. With that, I'm returning the item to the chair for commission to open the public hearing, and after that for commission discussion.
Thank you. Rachel, remind me, do you want a motion to open the public hearing?
I believe that is what is
All
required.
right, I'm looking for a motion to open the public hearing on this.
So move.
We scam.
Hey, the
Londorio seconds.
Thank you. I got a motion and a second. I guess we got to do a roll call vote on it.
Here we go. Chair Haggerty,
Yes.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
excuse me, and Commissioner Marchand,
Aye.
Commissioner Miley.
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the motion
call
passed.
my name. Rachel,
Oh, Commissioner Wieskamp.
since I made the motion, it would be good. Aye.
And this is Splendoria. Since I seconded, I'm also aye.
Okay, thank you all.
We're hiding.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we have the public comment period is open. Before I go to that, I just wanted to ask, does any of the commissioners have any questions?
No.
No?
If you have a question, just raise your hand. Do you know how to do that, Ann?
No.
Okay, you go to panelists, it'll bring up people under the panel, and on the bottom it says invite, mute me, or raise your hand. You press raise your hand, and then I know you want to speak.
You know,
Okay,
I'm fine.
and if I can't find you, Ann, you can't find that or do that, just yell at me.
Okay.
Okay, all
Sounds
right.
like fun.
There you go. All right, so I'm now going to move over to the attendees and see if there's any public comment. I see nobody asking. Remember to press *9 if you wish to speak on this item. I see no public comment from the attendees. Rachel, do you have anything in writing?
No, I do not, Chair.
Okay, so therefore I'm looking for a motion.
Oh my God.
The motion, in my opinion, can be to move to close the public hearing and move approval. But whoever makes the motion can do what they want.
So move.
What are you
Second.
moving? Are
Okay.
you going to move to close the public hearing and move approval, Ann?
Yes, I did. I thought.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure we're still
I'll
moving
speak.
that.
I'll speak lighter.
Okay, so, and I think the second came from Marchand.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to move to close the public hearing and also move approval. Roll call vote.
Chair Haggerty,
Yes.
Splendorio,
Yes.
Marchand,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Miley,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Wieskamp.
Yes.
I believe, thank you, Chair, thank you, Commissioners, and I believe now you are able to start your video. So if you would like to start your video, you can. Great.
All right. Okay. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. Miley's hiding. Okay. Hey, Supervisor Miley, can you call me in the Pleasanton office after this?
Okay.
Thank you. We're going to move to item 8, which is the Agricultural Conservation Planning Grant with the Department of Conservation.
Thank you, Chair. So the Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation program is a component of the Strategic Growth Council's Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities program. I'll title it as SALC for short, is funded through revenue from the California Climate Investments Fund derived from quarterly cap and trade auction proceeds for projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and provide additional benefits to communities. The Department of Conservation works in conjunction with the Natural Resources Agency and Strategic Growth Council efforts while increasing the economic viability of agricultural sectors and improving public health and environmental conditions in particularly disadvantaged communities. Alameda LAFCO reached out to the Alameda County Resource Conservation District in July 2020 to submit a proposal for SALC's planning grant and serve as lead applicant, given ACRCD's inability to do so based on the eligibility requirements. The project's purpose is to identify and monitor high priority parcels of agricultural lands within proximity to urban growth boundaries of cities and unincorporated areas within the County of Alameda, along with identifying priority sites for additional urban agricultural community gardens for disadvantaged communities, disadvantaged low income or unincorporated communities. The project will enable and promote existing programs as well as allow for transparency among stakeholders on who is doing what and for better coordination and collaboration to support and improve strategies within the region. Alameda LAFCO will assist in creating a repository of agricultural and open space use policies from stakeholders throughout the county, while ACRCD will implement and manage the project's priority sites. Under the grants program, terms and conditions, if awarded, the applicant must be able to match 10% of the grant funds allocated to the applicant. ACRCD determines that it could allocate 5% of the 10% required match through in-kind donations and other reserves if LAFCO could apply the 5% funds. It appears reasonable for Alameda LAFCO to apportion at least 5% of those funds, which would be $12,500 of reserves for the special project, given the Commission's total fund balance amount is approximately $690,000 at this time. Staff requests to designate at a maximum this $12,500 from reserves committed to the matching funds of the SALC grant program if awarded. The item is for Alameda LAFCO to consider authorizing the Commission to serve as lead applicant for the SALC agricultural planning grant in partnership with ACRCD, and to adopt a resolution of application for Alameda LAFCO to serve as this lead applicant, authorize the Commission to allocate the 5% of the grant total for matching funds, and then authorize the executive officer the authority to execute the grant agreement. And if awarded, staff will return to the Commission with a proposed memorandum of understanding on terms and conditions of administering the grant agreement and fund allocation. And with that, I'll return the item back to the chair for any Commission discussion.
Okay, so you mentioned the Alameda County Resource Conservation District a lot, and I don't know, I'm going to throw this out and just, I probably should have maybe done these 9 and 8 and 9 backwards so we could learn a little bit more. I mean, let me ask you this: would you rather hear the presentation by the Alameda County Conservation District before we vote?
I do.
Fine either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and vote on this then. And then we'll go to the presentation by the Alameda County Conservation or Resource Conservation District. Any questions? Nobody's raised their hand in the raise your hand chat feature. And I have nobody in the public that wishes to speak on this. Did you receive anything in writing?
No, Chair.
Okay, we have nothing. Therefore, we can't, panelist came up. John Marchand.
Yes. Rather than reinvent the wheel, I just wanted to point out that Mike Gatesman did a very a thorough review of the agricultural lands, especially in the Tri-Valley. I think he did that almost 20 years ago for Zone 7. So that's a very valuable piece of information. It's still out there. Many of those lands are still open. So before we charge off and do a whole new bunch of work, make sure that we look at the work that was done previously. And as I said, I know that Mike Gatesman did a very thorough review of the ag lands out here. So that's the only comment that I have. And I would move approval of the item.
Thank you. I have a motion by Marchand.
I'll
Splendoria
second.
seconds.
Ann's quick. She's quick today, I'm telling you.
I
She
know.
must be closer to my computer because she's coming in fast.
I approve. I think it's
So
great.
I have a motion and a second. We have nobody wishing to speak either venue, so we will go to a roll call vote.
Chair Haggerty,
Yes.
Splendoria,
Aye.
Marchand,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Miley,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Wieskamp.
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Motion passed unanimously. We're going to move to item 9, which is a presentation by the Alameda County Resource Conservation District. Please give a warm welcome to Executive Director Catherine Boxer. Did you have anything you wanted to say before that, Rachel?
That was perfect, Chair.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Rachel, for inviting me to present today to the LAFCO board on the Alameda County Resource Conservation District's scope of work and major goals and objectives, as well as the specifics of the SALC proposal. So I also, Rachel, FYI, I'm not certain how the presentation, how I move to the next slide.
Just if you tell me next slide, I'll move it for you.
Okay.
Before we move that, I'd like to know if anybody can identify the upper left picture. If you can, you get lunch with me.
Tiger salamander.
Tiger salamander.
Who said it first?
Albert.
Dave did.
God, Jesus, I don't want to do lunch with you.
All
right, let's go.
How about the guy on the right, upper right? Is that you, Scott?
I actually can't see him. I got
It's Scott on the horse.
It's I can't move my screen bar. Okay, so move on.
Okay, very good. Also, I knew it was a tiger salamander as well. So for whatever
I would hope so. It's your slide.
Good point. Okay, next slide, please. All right, for anyone that may not yet be familiar, the ACRCD, as we're called, is an independent, non-regulatory special districts. Special districts were established by the state of California and are governed by Division 9 of the Public Resources Code. We provide a variety of services to landowners, public agencies, private sector companies, and local communities. We are governed by a board of directors. That board, probably similar to LAFCO, provides oversight of RCD policies, our budget, and ensures that our programs appropriately reflect county-wide needs. This year, our budget, our fiscal year budget, is 1.9 million. We do not receive an annual budget from any entity. Therefore, we are responsible for raising our own funding by writing grant proposals, performing fee-for-service work for different entities, and we are fortunate to get a small portion of county property taxes, but that equals about 200,000 plus a year. Next slide, please. So the mission of the district is to provide leadership in the county and regionally to enhance natural resources, preservation, preserve wildlife and habitat, perform rangeland management, and improve agriculture through partnerships, education, outreach, resources, and technical advice, and actually perform technical assistance activities. Next slide, please. We have a variety of services, and I'd like to speak to them in general. In the realm of ecosystem management and habitat restoration, we are involved in assessing the status of various habitats, whether it is a grassland area, a riparian area, an oak woodland, etc. We conduct wildlife and plant species surveys. We also just a few months ago began an interesting and critical project that will restore habitat and food sources for the monarch butterfly, which in the last 5+ years, its population has declined to the point where it's almost extinct. We do restoration work, we plan projects, we implement and provide long-term monitoring as appropriate to the work and often as required by the grants received. Depending on the type of monitoring, it can be for 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, so it's variable. We're also quite involved in stream restoration, and we are doing that work for the city of Livermore. We've had an ongoing fee-for-service contract with them to perform this SMP stream maintenance plan, get the appropriate permits, work with regulatory agencies, etc. We're also in the process of researching appropriate sites for the construction of wildlife crossings, either under or over major interstates and eventually rural roads. And I'm going to speak more to this issue a bit later. Next slide, please. Okay. We also have a lot of work in the area of rangeland management that primarily involves management of grazing resources. Many large land-owning entities, such as the SFPUC, they contract with us to go in both in the fall and spring to do what they call RDM, data collection, residual dry matter, which is essentially plant growth. And then in the spring, we do plant composition and plant species monitoring. That data, both for the SFPUC and Zone 7, is then analyzed, and we're able, in coordination with a consulting firm, Larry Ford Consultants and Rangeland Management, we develop recommendations about their grazing program as it exists presently. Some areas we may find overgrazed, others undergrazed, and it may be necessary to move livestock to other locations, but it provides excellent tools for management. And another aspect of our grazing or rangeland management that is very important, and I think you all will recognize, is grazing for wildfire mitigation, and also other types of animals, goats and sheep, are also incorporated depending on the type of vegetation. We have been involved in livestock pond restoration and developing other infrastructure improvements with NRCS, who is co-located with us in our Livermore office. And we team up and we do an analysis of species present first, and then we'll make determinations through engineering, design, and the condition of ponds, what needs to be done to restore it. The ponds, most all of them in the Alameda County area, were built a good 30 to 50 years ago, and the life span of the typical pond is far less than 50 years. So there's a number of ponds that have required restoration, and that work will continue. We also have a fee-for-service contract with the SFPUC to manage the Sunol Agricultural Park, and we are further managing agricultural urban ag mini grants. So next slide, please. We do some education and outreach work that includes workshops for professionals as well as community members, and also includes beginning farmer and ranchers, addresses agricultural improvements and food systems. We've provided several workshops on special status species, such as the California tiger, salamander, red-legged frog, the whip snake. Now there's the California yellow-legged frog. And I would also like to conduct a workshop in coordination with Cal Fish and Wildlife on the San Joaquin kit fox. Of course, all in-person training presently is not available, so we will conduct any training we do this year through the mechanism of Zoom. If there's any community-based training that is requested, if people can be spatially distanced, it is feasible to do that kind of work as well. Next slide, please. So I wanted to give LAFCO a solid overview of our various projects, but this is simply a representation, as we have even currently many more projects than what I will describe here. So next slide, please. A very exciting project, and the first of its kind for Alameda County RCD, is that in partnership with Contra Costa RCD, we applied for a wildfire planning and mitigation grant that we received for $400,000 over a 2-year period. And we will be establishing a stakeholder group that will include critical entities such as local, county, and state fire agencies, utility companies, planners, public works departments, ranchers and farmers, potentially hospital and school districts, depending on what we determine to be the full scope of work. We will develop the plan partly through a facilitated process where we're working with the stakeholders, and will of course have as an initial priority mitigation issues at the urban-rural interface. I'd also like to say that just previous to this meeting, I had a very enlightening meeting with a fire specialist who's developed plans for all over the state and is well renowned, and she is going to be our advisor in the development of this regional priority plan. The regional priority plan, as the state calls it, is a new plan. There's not been any developed, so we're venturing into new ground, but with California essentially burning up, wildfires and their prevention, as well as the effective and efficient recovery from, will be an increasingly looming issue that needs to be addressed. And in fact, with the recent SCU fire, I ended up getting very involved because within the Alameda County area, there does not appear to exist a firm understanding of all the agencies that should be involved in planning and critically recovery. And when I first got involved, because of requests from ranchers, many different agencies thought they were responsible for damage assessment, but I was asked by county OES if the RCD could do it, which we certainly aren't equipped to do. So I'm recommending that there be a significant lessons learned meeting with all the related agencies, as well as ranchers and other farmers, et cetera, that were affected. Next slide, please. One of the projects I initiated here, and I know some of the board members are familiar with, because I've spoken about it previously, but it's developing wildlife crossings over or under interstates to begin with, and at the same time, as we recognize where wildlife crossings should be most optimally sited, we will identify parcels of land that may be optimal for acquisition, full acquisition, or purchasing conservation easements on by the Altamont Landfill Open Space Committee. And in fact, the ALOSC is funding some of our research currently. Next slide, please. So what's critical is first to recognize that there is a fragmentation problem in the East Bay, Alameda County, Contra Costa, etc. And when habitat is fragmented from extensive urban development and the building of major transportation infrastructure, that's not a natural fragmentation, and it severely reduces the possibility for wildlife to move through contiguous habitat, which is required for the health of particularly the larger species. So what it results in many cases, is a barrier effect. It thus impacts the normal kinds of interaction species would have. So that isolation then reduces the diversity of the genetic pool, because they're not able to move over, say, 1,000, 2,000 mile area or much larger area for species such as mountain lions. But it causes a great weakening of the existing animal populations, and they're not able to migrate, disperse, find new food resources. It also degrades ecosystem health. Next slide, please. And ultimately what happens is the local populations die off. So we have installed wildlife cameras and are continuing to do so on both public and private lands. These camera traps, as they're called, we download the data twice a month, typically, and from the photos taken, we can identify what species are present, where they're located, and the frequency of sightings. Ultimately, that data is analyzed and I would say a year plus from now, we'll be able to make some recommendations regarding optimal locations for consideration of wildlife over or under crossings. I want to emphasize this is on Interstate 580, and we've started in the Altamont Pass area. We will go down 580 west into the bordering of the Contra Costa area. And as I mentioned earlier, land parcels that are optimal for contiguous land corridors will be identified, and conversations will be held by the ALOSC or their representative relative to owner interest in the land being purchased or receiving conservation easements in perpetuity, whereby the landowners receive significant financial reimbursement for as well. Next slide. So I don't think anybody can see a lot of detail, but this shows areas both on 580 and 680. And there's another area off of 680 that we've identified and had multiple meetings with the SFPUC. It's a underpass, I-680 has an overpass over Alameda Creek, and this is an open corridor, if you will, so nothing needs to be constructed. However, we do need to do habitat restoration work in this area. That will happen, but the SFPUC has certain other projects that have to be accomplished first. However, they are planning and wish to make a commitment to make this into a wildlife undercrossing officially on 680. The barriers to, next slide, please. To animal movement, as I've discussed, these photos, upper left is a mountain lion moving through that wildlife underpass. There's a bobcat, a fox, and deer as well. So it's obviously being used. So the costs relative to this project are going to be really quite low and reasonable. Next slide, please.
Barbara, can I ask how many more slides you have?
Maybe 6.
You're gonna have to run through them pretty quick. I got other stuff to do in this meeting.
Okay, I understand, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so we want to find the right solutions at the right costs that have positive ecosystem impacts, as well as reduce the chance of deaths of vehicle collisions from vehicles hitting wildlife. Often those result in death of the occupants of the vehicles as well. Next slide, please. So I mentioned we're going to be identifying the sites, so we can really skip through this. and go to the next slide. Another significant area we've gotten involved in is carbon farming, carbon sequestration work. It does help support plant growth, water infiltration, holding capacity. It reduces atmospheric carbon and avoids on-farm GHG emissions. Next slide. We will be further restoring multiple sites of riparian habitat. Carbon farming further reduces soil disturbance and enhances the rangeland. Next slide. There's multiple models out there to estimate the carbon benefits, and we're concurrently implementing healthy soils technical practices. Next slide, please. Stop Waste, who I'm sure you're familiar with, is involved in the carbon farming work. Next slide. Agriculture, which is what you heard about prior to me beginning. Next slide, please. I want to briefly talk about the SALT grant proposal, just as a follow-up to Rachel. From this grant, if received, it's going to help us to ensure that not only agriculture, critical agriculture is preserved, and some of that work definitely has been done, and thank you for the referral back to Mike Gatesman's work. We'll look at that. But what we need to do very critically, first step, is analyze all the various jurisdictions' existing policies and regulations, because they are not consistent. Next slide. So we'll be setting up a stakeholder group. We'll be identifying and mapping out high priority parcels. We'll look to limit urban sprawl by simultaneously preserving critical ag and working lands. We'll be identifying priority sites for infill development for disadvantaged communities. We'll be reducing emissions. Next slide. And all those things will enhance the quality of life in Alameda County. So this coalition of stakeholders that will be formed will address those issues. Next slide, please. And this work will complement Plan Bay Area 2040 and eventually 2050. The planning work will be cooperative. We want to maximize long-term productivity of ag in the area and also develop urban edge opportunities in unincorporated areas of the county. Next slide, please. So we'll just briefly, a few other projects we're working on. I mentioned the first two, actually three, the climate smart carbon farming. There's the Water for Wildlife program, which is pond restoration. We have the urban farm ag initiative, monarch breeding, wildlife crossings as mentioned. And now moving on, another slide.
I think that's it.
Okay, I developed another slide, but it's not necessary to put it up, but it and I wasn't certain whether I would be showing the slideshow or yourself, but I wanted to ask if there's any questions, and I wanted to provide contact information. I can do that through Rachel, contact information, but do any of the LAFCO board members have any burning questions?
That's my job.
Oh, sorry.
So, Glenn, did you have a question?
No, I just said I need to leave at 3.
I know, that's why I'm trying to get through this.
Oh.
Okay, so I don't see any panelists that have questions. Going to attendees, I see no attendees with questions. Rachel, I know somebody's trying to get a hold of me. I'll get you in a second. Rachel, do you have anything in writing?
No, I do not, Chair.
Okay, so somebody has a question.
So this is Ralph.
Go ahead, Ralph.
So I just wanted to say that, you know, when I worked for the Public Works Agency, I probably, through our flood control program, I had at least 20 years of experience working with the RCD. And I believe that contract still continues. It's always been a wonderful working relationship. They're very professional, very easy to work with. And I'm really glad that we're working together with LAFCO and the RCD. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a comment.
Mayor Halbert.
Catherine, thank you so much for that presentation. A riveting and fact-filled PowerPoint. Thank you. I will say this is a very important topic, a very topic high on my list of priorities. And I would ask if you could please email me a copy of your presentation. I would greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you for your time today before this commission.
Well, thank you for your kind words.
Rachel, if you want, you can send the presentation out to all members, not just Halbert.
Will do.
Okay, so with that, Catherine, thank you very much for coming in today. A lot of great work. I know my office has been very interested in working on this pathway for the wild animals. I know Sean has been working on that too, so I'm proud of that project also. All right, so with that, I'm going to move to item 10, which is the Cal LAFCO update.
So thank you, Chair. Cal LAFCO announced the cancellation of its annual conference that was scheduled in October in Monterey. The Board of Directors voted against a virtual conference just based on the feedback from membership and other professional associations. The Achievement Awards have also been postponed. A new program will be announced at the end of the year, and it will cover a 2-year period. Nominations for the Cal LAFCO Board of Directors seat for either a county member or special district member are welcomed, but they are due by September 22nd, and votes will be conducted by mail ballots. Lastly, Cal LAFCO requires each member LAFCO to designate a voting delegate to vote on behalf of the commission. So voting delegates may be a commissioner, alternate commissioner, or executive officer, and a submission is required also by September 22nd. So please advise staff or the chair to any board nominations and a voting delegate.
Well, I'm looking at 3 on the bottom, 1 on the top. You're going to get a whole bunch of new members here pretty soon.
Exactly.
Your board is going to change drastically. And I look at Splendorio, and I think maybe he should run for the board. Maybe we should throw him out there.
Oh, no. I've been there, done that.
Yeah, but you didn't get the video. You forgot to pick up the video, so you got to go back.
Excuse me, Chair. I would love to have Splend as a nominee, but it's only for a county seat.
Thank you. Thanks, Rachel.
Well, then I suggest we nominate Halbert.
Positive thinking.
I will serve as
will
serve as the voting member if nobody else wants to do, or Georgine usually likes to do it too.
Well, do we need to do the voting member today?
We do not. Just advise staff the voting delegate, it makes sense just to do it right now. Anyone?
All right. So how many do we get? 1 or 2?
I could be the alternate. That would be easier.
Well, can't we just have like Splend do 1 and Georgine do the other?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, done.
Do that? Okay.
All right, so here, I'm gonna tell you what, because I'm into fair these days. This is a penny. Came out of my office, it's all I got, okay? It is, Georgine, you call it?
Heads.
And you see it? It's heads.
I can't
All
tell
right.
if it's heads or tails.
Congratulations, Georgine.
So Georgine, what do you want? You want to be the voting or the alternate?
I better be the voting.
Okay, there you have it. Splend, you're the alternate.
All
Lovely.
right.
That's democracy in action. Okay, let's move now to the GIS mapping project.
Thank you, Chair. So if you can just see my screen, I'm going to click this link. Okay, well, hold on just a second. I will share with you. Good Lord. 1 second. Well, anyways, we have a new mapping, our GIS LAFCO mapping project, and we will finally be able to post this map onto our website to allow applicants or any member from the public to view their boundary or territory. Can you see this right now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So if I can type in our office space, and it pulls up right now, and I can move to.
And you're in Minnesota now.
Oh God. Here we go. I was like, it's too green. Here we go.
I want to be in Minnesota. Oh, maybe they do.
So this is the LAFCO office. I can move to the layers and we can see what district we're in. We can view the sphere of influence. So you see we're within, or we're not, we're in Hayward Fire. But we have all these different special districts and city boundaries that will be posted on the website, so that can sometimes save staff time if a member of the public would like to see where they're located. And just one more example. So you can see this is an unincorporated Riemann tract, and you can view the parcel. We can also quickly change the, oh, Jesus, the background of what it should look like. Just give me 1 second. Let's see. It should, oh, here we go. So now you can have it look like from the satellite image. You can do night vision for whatever reason, if you'd like that. So there are different geographical options to display on the map. So big thanks to the Community Development Agency for moving that along and getting that done. And if there's any questions on this, it will go live right after this meeting.
All right, any questions? Great job, Rachel.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, matters initiated by members of the commission. Anybody? Great job. Informational items, Rachel.
All right, I'll go through this fast. We just have one application on file with Sanctuary West, from Union Sanitary District. It's a development, pretty much a potential development titled Sanctuary West that will service, I think, about 60 units of housing. You'll probably see that at our next regular meeting. Progress report on work plan. We finished that GIS mapping project. We're updating our agricultural policies, and we're going to start receiving more presentations. One of them being from the Livermore Valley Wine Growers Association, hopefully at the next meeting. And a little bit down the line, an upcoming informational report on islands and creating that 5-year plan on island annexations. The legislative report, we received Cal LAFCO issued an urgent call for action to oppose SB 414, a Small System Water Authority Act of 2020. It basically bypasses LAFCO's authority and causes confusion in forming water agencies, and it would be an unfunded mandate for LAFCO. So staff submitted an opposition letter, and right now that bill is dead, but it may come back in some other form again. And I believe the last informational item is the wastewater, stormwater flood control municipal service review update. And we received an administrative draft on that from QK Associates. Our policy and budget committee reviewed that, but staff right now we're sending out that document and to all the affected agencies to receive technical edits and key metrics. And we will have an administrative draft review to the public and commission, hopefully at next meeting, followed by recommendations and a completed public draft at our January meeting. So I'm discussing with all the affected agencies to get those edits done, and also offering to provide a presentation on the LAFCO MSR process. And that is that.
Rachel, on the emergency bill that you took action on, did you happen to check in with like Sean, my chief of staff, or anybody?
I might have been a little oversight. No, I don't think so.
I think in the future, and this is other boards that I sit on, that we don't really have a ledge committee, but I think it would be important to check in with the chair and vice chair. I understand on this one, it's really not a big deal, but I think maybe this should be in our policy and procedures manual, but I think on urgency items, at least it should go to the chair and vice chair, and then they say, okay, and then you do it, as opposed to just doing it, because these are legislative issues. That's why we're here. That's what we do. And there could be ramifications that we're looking at that affect cities and counties too. So I think it just kind of is a layer of protection for you in sending those bills. And I don't think on this one, it certainly was a big deal, but I think in the future, it would be good to have check-ins.
Noted, Chair, and thank you.
Commissioner Haggerty, there actually is a delegation of authority to the executive officer in your bylaws. And so, it might be worth revisiting whether that delegation of authority.
I mean, I'll ask the committee how they feel about that. I mean, on every committee I sit on, MTC, ABAG, any of those committees, there's always at least a check-in with the chair or vice chair. I appreciate the delegation of authority, and I'm certainly not acting like Rachel did anything wrong. That's not what I'm trying to imply, but I just think because we are the policymakers, we should be checked in with first before we take a position.
And that's what the procedure is in the delegation.
What is it?
A check-in with the chair or vice chair if there's not time to consult with the full commission before sending the letter.
Okay, well then, so we don't need to change the policy. We just need to do it. So, all right, Rachel, it's not a big deal. I'm not.
I know. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not, look, I appreciate you doing that and get it done, get it out, but yeah, just to check in the future would be great. All right, anybody else on this or any other item? So I'm gonna go to, did the attendees ever wake up? No, they never woke up. They're still attending though. That's good. I applaud the 3 that stuck with us. So we're gonna adjourn this meeting. Our next meetings of the commission will be the Policy and Budget Committee. We'll be meeting, I'm assuming virtually, October 1st, 2020. And our regular meeting is November 12th, 2020. And remember, Nate, please call me in the Pleasanton office.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you.
commissioners.
Thank you, Rachel.